Welcome to the Unconventional Ministry Podcast. I'm Dennis Weens, your host, Senior Impact Catalyst at Sat7 USA. Each week, I invite a guest to join the podcast to share about their unconventional ministry, their innovative approach to doing ministry. So I encourage you to check past episodes because there's a variety of different guests, different approaches, different ministries. And please remember to subscribe to the podcast as well. And I want to thank my sponsor, Sat7 USA. Sat7 is a Middle East, North Africa broadcast media ministry based in the Middle East with a vision to make the gospel available to everyone in the Middle East and North Africa. Think of the news you hear every week. In those countries from the Middle East, Sat7 endeavors to make the gospel available through satellite television, web streaming, through digital, through many different aspects, make the gospel available to everyone. And you can learn more at sat7usa.org. That's SAT, the number 7, USA.org. My guest today is Todd Tarbert, founder and CEO of Semble, a transformative and proven approach to addressing loan needs for churches, nonprofits, and ministries in realizing greater impact for their ministries. And so, Todd, welcome to the Unconventional Ministry Podcast.
Well, Dennis, thank you. It's great to join you today. I'm really grateful for this chance.
I'm glad you reached out to me. This definitely fits the innovation and creativity of what I want to accomplish through having episode each week. And this week we're talking about finances, we're talking about loans, we're talking about impact investment. So thank you. I'm going to learn a lot myself, and I hope my podcast guests will learn a lot as well. So I was looking on your LinkedIn a little bit about what you do. You have quite a career in finances. You're an attorney, and so you're well prepared for ministry that you have, this nonprofit you had called Semble. Let's start by giving us an overview of what Semble does, and then we'll get into more of the details and how people can learn more and how they should inform their churches and nonprofits and ministries about what you offer them. But what is Semble, this ministry that you started now for 16 years ago?
Yeah, no, again, thank you so much. It's just great to be able to join you and your audience. 16 years ago, I was serving on the board of my kids' private Christian school. And the school had an opportunity to buy the property that they'd been leasing. The school had gone through a couple of years of budget crisis. They had no cash reserves. So there was no chance that they were going to be able to go out and get a bank loan and finance that purchase. So based on my background as an attorney in helping for-profit companies raise investment capital, I put together this program. And frankly, just, God's hand was on the initiative from the very beginning. I mean, it was just a total God's, story and being a part of his plan. But we saw a need to go out and find alternative ways to raise loan capital so that ministries and organizations can achieve their goals, but with much lower cost of capital. So that very first one, in 90 days, we were able to raise $5.6 million from investors that invested in investment capital. It's not charity. This is just becomes an alternative investment where they can direct some of their investment funds towards the funding of the loan that went to that school. And we accomplished that first one. It allowed them to do something that they would not have been able to do otherwise. Even in that first one, the way that we structured it, their loan payments were $23,000 a month. But if they'd gotten a bank loan, if they could have got a bank loan, it would have been over $50,000 a month. So it fundamentally changed the entire sort of dynamics of that transaction, the financial impact on the organization to buy that property. And we did that first one, and it became apparent there was a need and an opportunity to serve ministries and nonprofits all over the United States to help them address their loan needs. And one thing led to another. We put together a business, and now we serve organizations, primarily Christian ministries, private schools, and churches throughout the United States who have either a need for a new loan or they have a current loan. And that's who our audience is. And at the end of the day, our goal it achieves a couple of very fundamental, outcomes for our clients. One, it lowers their monthly payments by at least 50%. And all that means is they're going to have more resources available for deployment, for the ministry. And the other really interesting dynamic of this program that we found is that it actually promotes greater charitable giving. Something happens to the heart of the people that participate that stimulates greater charitable giving. And all I can say, it's just been such a blessing to be a part of this. Anyway, so that's a little bit of an overview of what we do and how we're serving nonprofits.
So that first experience there kind of set a template that you've worked on and perfected over the years. I know I visit a lot of churches, and so many of them are strapped with just struggling to pay the interest each month, let alone paying anything down on the principal. And it limits so much the church because the budgets are so tight. So I think this is really going to resonate. And I encourage you, if you're listening as a podcast listener, send this to your church leadership, send this to your board chair, your ministry, finance people. Maybe they can look at this, and this would be a way to free up some capital or some cash for the ministry. I'm curious about the name. Where does the name Semble come from?
Yeah, so, it's really it's a play on the word to assemble. I mean, the entire sort of ethos of our company, one of the principles that we set out early on is almost this notion of the power of the collective, that people coming together, they can do more together than when they're separate. And so it's sort of this play, to assemble together as a community to achieve an outcome. And then we shortened it to Semble. So that's how we sort of came up with the word, sort of a made up word.
Very good. Do you know of other ministries doing this, or is this kind of a unique model in the Christian community and the nonprofit community?
At one level, what we do and how we do it is unique. There have been old, what they call bond initiatives within the church community that some people might have experience with. And frankly, there's people that have had a very negative experience with those initiatives. And we've actually had to overcome some of a negative impression of that our model is similar to those. While there's some similarities, it's uniquely different. And so, but as far as how we do it and the way it's deployed is uniquely, and as far as we know, there's nobody out there that does what we do. I mean, the closest competition we have really are some of these old church extension bond initiatives, and then banks are really our primary competitors. But what's really interesting about that is banks have become one of our major referral sources. They really love participating on our loans when gap funding is necessary. Because in some instances, our clients and their community isn't able to fund all of the loans. So it's necessary to look for a source for gap funding. And we'll bring in one of our bank partners that really love to participate with these loans.
So I know I have some pastors that listen to this Unconventional Ministry podcast. They're listening maybe for some creative ideas for their own community, their own church. So help our pastors that are listening if they have a new building program, they need a loan, they need $5 million. Walk us through how this works so they understand what's involved.
Well, let me just, first to start out, it usually, if I were to be approached by a pastor or somebody on the finance team saying, hey, we have this building project, we think it's going to be $5 million. A lot of times we will give them just right out of the box. We would tell them, with our program, you would likely be able to end up with a loan payment of probably less than $17,000 on that $5 million. And they, more than likely, they've talked to their bank already. And their bank has told them, Well, with current interest rate, that loan, your payments are probably going to be close to $40,000 a month. Well, they're sitting there going, oh my God, what do you mean it can be 17,000? In fact, I just got off the phone here not long ago with the leadership team of a Christian school that wants to build a school, and it was about this amount. And we started going into it, and they'd go, Todd, we don't know how we're going to be able to afford it. And I go, well, let me just tell you under this program, your payments would be, and I told them what it'd be. Literally, the executive director is a gentleman in his 50s. He started weeping, crying, because he goes, I have to apologize for my emotions, but this is the first time in 3 years I believe that this project can be real. Mm-hmm. And so that's how we get involved. And so for usually a pastor, they have a project, they come to us, we give them a sense of what the potential outcome could be, what the result, and the process is actually fairly straightforward. We turnkey the entire process that allows them to reach into their community of supporters. And usually it is going to be the members of their church, if it's a church, the members of the church, and then possibly the family members mm-hmm. of the church. Mm-hmm. Because this is an investment, not an outright charitable gift, you have the ability to reach that next tier of relationship. So we've worked with a number of churches that are a younger church where you have young families. Well, maybe a lot of them don't have the investment capital to support and to participate in our loan initiatives. But they might have, grandma and grandpa. They're not a part of that church. Mm-hmm. But grandma and grandpa are trying to figure out where they can put their money to earn a fixed income investment. So they'll participate in these initiatives. It's not uncommon in a church setting for 50% of the capital that's funding the loan to actually come from people that aren't even members of their church. And I think it's important, Dennis, I just want to make it very clear. We are not the source of the investors. We don't have this group of investors that are just waiting for us to bring, an initiative online. And in essence, we become the bank. That's not our model. We basically have created this program that allows the church to very efficiently reach into their relationships in order to fund this loan. And again, this is just asking people to be a little more intentional on where they're directing their investment capital. And sort of important to note, we structure these in a way that allows people to use retirement funds. So they actually become a qualified investment that can be held in a person's like an IRA or a Roth IRA, which is a very attractive option for people to be able to access and deploy money that's going to support their ministry or church in a very tangible way.
You've made it clear that you aren't the investors, you don't bring the investors, but I would think that you would provide coaching to a nonprofit, to a church, to help them understand where they can go out and engage their own people. And the second tier, as you talked about, the grandparents, the senior citizens, to engage them in participating in this investment.
That's correct. And so in every engagement, we actually create what we call a listing. We actually, technically, we're considered a fintech company, financial tech company. We've created this online lending platform where we will aggregate all of the information around each loan initiative. And that becomes the main hub, the sort of call to action where we're directing potential investors to go and review the information about the loan initiative so they can make an informed investment decision. And so we work with the leadership team about how to raise awareness among their network of relationships. And at the end of the day, we want them to go to the website, learn about it, and we're there alongside. We're partnering with them in educating their members about impact investing, how they can participate, how this actually works. So we don't expect the church and our church partners to be selling this. That's our role. We come alongside and take that burden. They have to get those, relationships to the table, but then we sort of take it from there and we make sure people, are able to get their questions answered. How does this work? How is my investment secured by the real estate? How can I use retirement funds? All the, type of questions. What happens, if there's a default? What happens if I have a hardship and need my money out? We help address all of those questions. We take that off of the church, and then just so you're aware in your audience, we actually do all the loan servicing for the clients. So from the perspective of the church, it looks like a commercial loan. They're just making a monthly loan payment. We do all of the administration of that loan, disbursements out to investors, tax reporting. We take care of all of that. It also, it's probably important to note for pastors who might be listening. One of the concerns over the years, especially early on, they are concerned about, is it appropriate to be mixing money and the church and the spiritual stewardship of the leadership and mixing money? Is there a risk that it's going to impact the spiritual relationship? And I think it's an important question. It's a consideration that we feel very deeply about. And when we developed this model, we did not ever want to see it used in a way that would in any way undermine that spiritual relationship between the pastor, the elders, and the congregation. And so one of the ways that we help mitigate that chance of risk is the investors who are investing are anonymous to the leadership of the church. And so again, we stand in the gap between that so that that just doesn't become part of that equation of that important relationship in the churches.
Well, it sure sounds to me like it's a well thought out program. You've developed it over the years. I'm sure we have listeners that want to know more. So where can they get more information? I'm sure you have a website. What do they do when they go to your website? Where do they click? Where do they click first?
Yeah, so one, they go to our website, which is www.semble.com, semble.com. There's a section right in the upper right-hand corner. They can go and get more information. There's a section on how to contact us. We actually host a weekly informational session every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. That's every Thursday. It's a Zoom meeting, so they can reach out to me. Probably the easiest, most efficient way is just send me an email at Todd, Todd, at Semble.com. And, we can take it from there and schedule time to meet, or they can join us for one of our upcoming sessions.
As I've listened to you talk, it sure seems to me that this fits under biblical stewardship, being wise stewards of everything God has entrusted to you. And, that's your families, your talents, your time, your investments, your finances, your cash in your pocket. This seems to be a part of biblical stewardship, doing kingdom impact investment. So we're reading more about impact investment. This seems to fit under that.
And I really appreciate you mentioning that, because that really is the heart and soul of, that's our why. I mean, in many ways, why am I doing this? That is what God put on my heart. I mean, we do believe what we're doing is ministry around money. And you probably know in church circles, there's an old saying that the last thing to get saved is the pocketbook.
Right.
And there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, a lot of times people that are, they're going to church, they're all out for Christ. But boy, when it comes to their money, I mean, it's just people are holding on tight. We're actually very direct. I've actually had investors who, they'll call up, say, hey, I'm thinking about investing, but, the reality is I could get a greater return out here. And I just go, I want to just stop right now. I go, I don't think this investment is for you, because The reality is this is not about chasing yield. This is about developing a kingdom mindset around stewarding out of your abundance. We would only want you to, do it if you see that this is just, you've been blessed abundantly, and this is just a way for you to steward what God has given you. And we're gentle about this, but we're very serious about instilling that this is all about biblical stewardship. And I think it's it is one of the manifestations in today's times of what does the parable of the talents, how's that really play out? What plays out like this? Are people stewarding out of their abundance in a way that is achieving, maybe a return to them, but there's also this kingdom return. It's having a legacy impact. We just closed last week on an initiative for a Christian school. This school is actually, they have a waiting list of probably a couple of hundred. I mean, there's just such demand for them. So they had to buy this new facility. They couldn't afford it. We helped them through this model, and every family that is participating from a kingdom-minded stewardship, and they're participating in a legacy project. One of the things I didn't share with you, Dennis, the way that we structured our initiatives is our clients set the maximum rate they're willing to pay investors. But the way that the platform is set up, each investor can elect a rate that's equal to that maximum rate, which isn't usually very high. Usually it's around 4%. But then each investor can elect a rate that's lower than that down to zero. That's kingdom stewardship, when people on their own is electing to participate, sometimes at significant dollar amounts, at a 0% interest rate. That's right. Kingdom stewardship in practicality today. Just people just realizing, what, it's not mine. All I am is to be a good steward of what I've been blessed with. And
people just managing what God has given to them and managing it for kingdom impact. So, Todd, this has been fascinating. And give your website again, and I trust many will send you an email and get involved in this kingdom impact.
Great. Well, again, our website is www.semble.com, semble.com, or todd@semble.com. Just email me. Dennis, thank you so much. And, I just so appreciate this chance. And, may your ministry be blessed in this year ahead.
Thank you for joining the Unconventional Ministry podcast.
Thank you.
In our changing world, there are more ways than ever to do ministry. Sat7 as a broadcast media ministry is changing how ministry is done. Through innovative approaches, collaborative efforts, broadcast satellite television, web streaming, and social media, Sat7 is making a difference. Visit Sat7 online today at sat7usa.org to learn ways you can be a part of this kingdom work. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please share it with your friends. If you know of an unconventional ministry approach, please introduce us. We'd like to have them on as guests. Thank you again for joining this episode of the Unconventional Ministry podcast.